In this video, we will discuss the most common women's questions on the first date, what they really mean, why women ask them, and how to answer these questions correctly. Well, the first question, how long have you been without a relationship? Why is a woman interested in this? Yes, because if you broke up 2-3 weeks ago, then it's almost impossible to take your communication and your acquaintance seriously. I mean, what if you and your ex make up tomorrow? When a woman asks this question, she wants to make sure that your story with your ex is complete. But there is another extreme. If you say that your relationship ended there the last 3 or 4 years ago, it will also arouse some suspicion. What have you been doing? You've been running around with women all this time, and now you want to divorce me? It's just the first thing that comes to her mind. And so the ideal answer is, of course, that you broke up there about 6 months ago. But in no case tell me the exact date, that on July 22nd at 3 p.m. my ex and I said goodbye forever. Yes, you don't have to worry so much that she's still important to you. Well, seriously, I'm not in favor of lying. Yes, anyone can be deceived, including me. But it won't be revealed quickly. I'll stop trusting this person anyway. It happens somehow unconsciously. You just feel that you definitely shouldn't trust this person. I understand that somewhere in the course of communication, during acquaintance, embellishing a little, not finishing a little is okay. It can be understood, but you definitely shouldn't lie. This is my personal position, so to speak. The second question is, why did you break up with your ex? The question is why you broke up with your ex. And through this question, the woman just blames your adequacy. If you say, yes, she was a fool, then why did you choose her? That is, no emotional assessments, even if in the future you want to marry a girl like this. On this topic, on the topic of the former, remove any negativity. Just a statement of fact. Yes, the ex was like that. Yes, I chose that one. The second mistake in answering this question is when a man is worried that he is still not indifferent to this story. He takes a deep breath, looks away and thinks tragically about something, or even says that there was a difficult history of relations there. A man, well, he burns very quickly in intonation, in facial expressions, because the mood, the pace of speech and narration change. Well, it's fast-paced. The third mistake is asking you why you broke up with your ex. You say, yes, there's such a complicated story, we didn't get along, we were at a dead end and realized that it was better to break up. And you have, well, such abstract, vague answers, they don't give any sense of sincerity. But it's clear to everyone that you just didn't want to tell the story the way it really was. And such communication always repels me very much. Well, what's the point of going on a date and hiding something? Well, this is some kind of nonsense. That is, on the contrary, on the first date I could tell a girl something that sometimes I never told a friend. Yes, I wouldn't have blurted it out to her. It would have been really interesting to find out, then I could have been honest. Well, the fourth such unpleasant mistake is when a man tries to seem cool when answering this question. That is, he says, yes, I didn't like the way my ex behaved there. She allowed herself a lot. I put her in her place there. I decided to end it there and left her. Well, there is such a thing. How do women shoot a fucker? Expression. A barking dog doesn't bite. That's how it works in everything. That is, if a person is trying to show everyone, to prove his genius, then in fact he considers himself stupid. If he tries to appear strong, it means that he feels that he is weak. And if he tries to appear tough, it means that he is actually soft. When a person contains an element of conformity, then he is too lazy to prove anything. Such a person even tends to underestimate his achievements. That is, he strongly says that yes, there are smart people stronger than him. They most often consider themselves the most ordinary, and people of holy life have always considered themselves the last sinners. You may have met this when a girl starts to prove to you, somehow even to boast, to be proud of the fact that she is faithful. She will never commit treason. Others will, but she will not. This is a very alarming signal. If all this were true, what she says would not have occurred to her to be proud of it, and utter a rumour. Well, in order to highlight this as an advantage, her loyalty as an advantage, she must be able to act differently. Well, in short, a person most often praises himself where he needs to throw all this fluff on himself. But there is nothing shameful in telling a girl on a date. Well, yes, that's where your ex let you down in a difficult life situation. That your ideas about relationships really turned out to be different. Well, if you want, you can specify what it is. Music. If you want a person to start trusting you and telling you some personal information, then start doing it all first, and that's it. The next one, well, also quite often. What are you into? What are your hobbies? A popular women's question is, how do you spend your free time? And here it is important to understand that there is no right answer here. Why? Because a woman just wants to match her pace of life, her social activity and interests with yours. She's asking for you, what do you do and what do you love? In the hope of just finding these points of contact. The woman analyzes and wants to understand if you can have this synchronization of her and your lifestyle. But we understand that one girl likes her man to cook cupcakes at home, while the other can't do it in the Maldives. One woman leads a closed lifestyle, she just gets sick, and the other needs to be the centre of attention inside a noisy company. And if she doesn't post the story there in time, then withdrawal begins. The correct answer is the one that just suits her interests, and here you have to tell the truth. Well, there's no point in lying. It happens when a woman calibrates to pretend that what she is interested in, and he is interested. He starts going somewhere with the girl all the time, visiting some places, some exhibitions, theatres, museums, and before I met him, he only went fishing, went to the rocking chair and played dominoes. But after a while, well, more often there's 6 months, a year, the man just rolls back to his basic behaviour. And this will happen sooner or later. It doesn't happen otherwise, that's all. One thing is boring, and then it gets worse. Who do you live with? Alone or with mum? Often a woman does not immediately ask a man a question, of course, a little later. Who do you live with? This question is most often asked by women visiting a large city, for example. Since I'm from Moscow, I've heard this question very often. Why was she asking him? Because, well, her plan probably doesn't include paying rent for an apartment all her life. She needs to settle in a big city. And, of course, the men in their homes. Freely? Hardly. Bad. Well, in my opinion, this is bad. That's such a predatory view of dating. Well, it's not good to eat. Yes, it happens when women ask about this in order to assess the degree of male infantilism. Well, it's generally assumed that if a man lives alone, he's mature. But if he lives with his parents, he's always a rookie. But in my opinion, it doesn't work that way 100% of the time. That is, I know many examples where a man not only lives alone, he earned from scratch for this apartment, but at the same time is infantile to the core on a variety of issues in life as a whole. There are examples when a man is forced to live with his parents, but there was no obvious infantilism behind him, so there is no need to be embarrassed by this issue. Answer as it is, if it somehow plays into the negative of the dating process, well, we probably don't really need such a woman. Yes, it's not a big loss, as they say. There are also such questions. The woman wants to ask about it, but she can't. To understand this, you need to put yourself in the position of a woman. Here in front of you is a handsome man who speaks beautifully, perhaps looks after you beautifully, but there is a risk that after one night he will stupidly disappear. Is that what a woman does most often in such situations? She's trying to slow down somehow, to flatter her feelings, and she's literally forcing herself to be wary. At the same time, there is no point in asking you directly at all. She's trying to figure it out by bone signs, and that, by the way, is such an interesting nuance. In order to fall in love with a woman, a man doesn't have to distrust her at all. There's no question of trust at all. Why trust, as it were? Yes, but trust is necessary for a normal woman to love a man. And when my wife and I met, she wrote a letter of resignation from her job 3 days later, and I was in another city altogether. How could you trust me? Well, I just knew what I wanted. I was as specific as possible, consistently dot my profile on the dating site was of a certain format, so to speak, yes, under the search for a wife. The questions when they met were not idle, not casual, but on the case. We called, of course, but when calling, well, it's much easier to just hear the person's reasoning. The reaction time during the call is less, just yes. You have to react faster than when texting, and it's much easier to catch the interlocutor on some contradiction. If the person is playing, he will quickly start making mistakes. Of course, I indicated at the beginning that ideally intimacy would need to wait and try to delay. Well, in general, everything was as clear and transparent as possible. And why? Well, just because everyone knew what they wanted. Yes. So think about it too. The next question is, who do you work for? The question is, who do you work for? Yes, most of the time this issue is really mercantile, but not always. It happens that a woman is just curious. And in order to understand this, to find out if this is a mercantile question or not, you answer, but do not name a specific position. That is, don't say that you are a leading specialist or head of a department. Just say that I work in a bank there or in a transport company there. Yes, that is, you name your field of activity, but you don't give any information that could be used to calculate or understand your income. If this is a mercantile interest, then the woman will immediately or a little later begin to ask some additional questions, according to which it will be possible to figure it out. Well, it will make everything clear. And here's what's important to know about money. One day, they send me stories in which my wife leaves for another and tells her husband, "There are no prospects, you earn little, you are not ambitious, lazy. Look at how other people live there." And the next day, I can get a few stories when my wife had no limit on spending at all, but she still leaves to someone else and tells her husband, "You don't pay attention to me, you haven't been home, you haven't been enough for me. What should I do in this case?" And I'll say, look for a woman who understands that everything has pros and cons. Or you are. I'm talking about the perfect alignment, perfect, or you rarely see your husband, but you go to paintings, or your husband will be alive, real. You can even touch it, but you probably won't have anything to show off in front of your friend. What do you want? And so, if you notice on a date that your female interlocutor thinks unrealistically, she wants to find everything at once, and she won't meet your expectations right away. We're moving on. Do you want a family? Why wasn't he married? If a man is over 30 and at the same time he looks normal and is not a fool, then of course the woman will ask the question, why aren't you married there? Why haven't you been married yet? And do you know how a woman feels at this moment? It's like seeing an ad for an author with a good car 3 times cheaper in the market. You think, yeah, well, I don't know, it's broken anyway. Then you look at the photo, you realize that it's not, and according to the documents, everything seems to be fine. Well, at first you even kind of want to, but you're afraid to believe that it's true, that such a good option has finally turned up. A woman feels very similar. She thinks there's a catch somewhere. Anyway, there is, and all you need to do in such a situation is to find a way to calm the woman down and convincingly explain why this happened in your life. The next female question: what kind of girls do you like? Do you like? And by your answer, it will be possible to understand very quickly what you are like. If answering this question, you begin to describe mainly your appearance, a woman will immediately realize that, well, here is a love psychotic in front of her, and she knows exactly where she needs to push now. You're showing her your weak spot. If you focus on a woman's ability to entertain you, well, that's a plus or minus in the same piggy bank. Well, so that she doesn't get boring, so that she engages in self-development every second, so that she always has a good sense of humour. Just imagine, you come to a major car dealership. They ask you, what kind of car do you need? And you say, it's beautiful, the seats are soft, and I want to touch Alcantara. Well, the manager looks at you like a crustacean and says, where are you planning to go? The car is selected for the task. What do you want? What are your plans? That's what I want to say to you. If you are looking for a woman for a relationship, then a sense of humour or some other aspects, they should come first. And it happens that when answering this feminine question, a man generally rolls out a whole list of mutually exclusive qualities. I want to be beautiful, modest, a little vulgar, loyal, ambitious. Krotyuk does not understand that it is much easier to combine the endurance of a marathon runner, the explosive strength of a weightlifter, and the agility of an acrobat. For this question, it is necessary to check the search criteria for adequacy. If a man declares himself, picks up a wife for a love break, ahead, then how can you trust such a person? What should I talk to him about? What prospects are we talking about here? That's what you need to think about. In conclusion, I want to say the following. The moment has already come to move on to real action and not just stand still. And for this, of course, you need to study my private lectures, a link to the website under any video, including the data. See you.